Welcome, I'm Kinetic Symphony. This is Dave. I hunt down and report on weird and true mysterious stories, from glitches to the supernatural. Case file number 1761, written by Anonymous. The Woman in Pink, a Midnight Blink. Around age 8, I woke up in the middle of the night. There was a woman crouched down on the opposite side of my room, facing away from me. My parents always left my door cracked open and the hallway light on, so I could see her clearly. At first I thought she was my mom, and I almost asked her what she was doing, but when she turned around, I realized she was not my mother. She had blonde hair, big blue eyes, she was wearing a light pink sweatsuit and white tennis shoes. We lived in a secluded area by a forest and down a dirt road with only a few neighbors. We knew all of our neighbors, and she was not one of them. My parents always locked the doors and checked the window locks before they went to bed, and we have a dog that would have whined if a stranger came in. So I don't know how this woman got in our house. She was there for a long time, and I know I was awake, because the entire time my heart felt like it was beating out of my chest. I've still never been so afraid in my life, some 30 years later. I was too afraid to call my parents, whose bedroom was just on the other side of the wall, because I thought she would hurt them. I didn't sleep properly for years because the experience had terrified me that much. To this day, I know in my heart she was a real person, but I don't understand what she was doing there or how she got in. She was just taking her time and looking at all the random junk on my bedroom floor. Toys and Easter baskets that we had left lying about, nothing interesting to a normal adult. And she was getting real close and checking on me and my sister in the bunk bed above to see if we were asleep. I pretended to be asleep. Was this a crazy woman who just stumbled into our house? Eventually, she left the room, and I fell back asleep and didn't wake up until about 5 a.m. when my father got up for work. All these years later, I wonder how she got in without being heard, and what she was doing. Why would you wear a pink sweatsuit and white shoes to break into someone's house? I just can't figure it out. I'd love to hear theories. By the way, when I told my parents the next morning, I think they were horrified, but told me that I must have been dreaming. Years later, they confessed that the whole thing majorly creeped them out, and the fact that I couldn't sleep for years made them extra suspicious that it wasn't a dream. I would wake up every night at like 3 a.m. and ask to sleep on the floor next to their bed for like 2 years, and I'd just lay there listening to every creak the house made for what seemed like an hour every night. Case file 1761. The Woman in Pink, a Midnight Blink. So a mentally unstable person that somehow circumvented all your security to such an adept level that no one ever noticed she was there, even after the fact, after you told your parents? No way. It must be a modern spirit. A woman who died relatively recently, probably in that house, and it's probably the case that she had kids. Maybe those kids, died too, or maybe they were left behind and moved away now. But she still wants to feel like she has children, so she's looking at you, not wanting to scare you, wanting to make sure you're asleep, while she looks and peruses around, trying to reconnect with the children she once had. So all the junk on your floor, the toys and stuff, was precious to her, in ways that we can't even understand. Case file number 1762, written by your hot metal girlfriend. Mystery resolved. The book evolved. When I was in 5th grade, a friend gifted me a hardcover copy of all 3 Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark volumes in one book. This book quickly became my most prized possession, so I wrote my name inside the front cover, just in case I ever lost it at school. At some point, I took my book with me to my dad's house for the weekend, which is in another city about an hour away from where I lived with my mom. I had left it at my dad's house that weekend, and I guess I just forgot to ever bring it back home with me. Well, eventually, my dad moved into a new home, and I figured my book mistakenly got thrown out. I was very sad about it, but accepted my reality. Fast forward a few years to 8th grade. I make a new friend in one of my classes, and we become very close very fast. I was hanging out at his house one day and decided to look through the books on his bookshelf. I see a copy of Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, the same one I had, that contained all 3 books in one. I pulled it out saying to my friend, "Wow, I used to have a copy of this too, no way." I opened the front cover, and right there at the top was my name, exactly how I wrote it back in 5th grade. My friend had absolutely no recollection of where that book came from. Case answer file 1762. Mystery resolved. The book evolved. Those threads of fate, the ensemble models predicting the future, they would have to align so perfectly for this to just be random happenstance. Well, there's no way, right? It's impossible. Some force, some will place that book there for you to find it again. Why? I couldn't say. There's too many dominoes to fall for things that it could affect. You know, having that book maybe makes you appreciate horror stories even deeper, and maybe you go on to be the next Stephen King. I don't know, something like that. Never actually read much Stephen King, just know his movies. The Mist was phenomenal. The ending, my God. But in a nutshell, something or someone clearly wanted you to have this book. We can't know why. We can only know that a will was involved. There's no other explanation. Case file number 1763. Written by cloroxceilingfan. Time warp drive, a freeway jive. I was coming home from spending an evening in LA. Lived in OC. Lived in LA for a bit. Know the area and freeways really well. And have an excellent sense of direction. Found myself headed in the opposite direction of where I needed to be heading, with no memory of switching to the northbound freeway. I was a little bit tired, but vividly remember getting off the main streets of the middle of the city and onto the southbound 101 freeway. My drive was around 40 minutes long at that point. Waze said so. All of a sudden, I look down at my phone and my drive is over an hour long. I'm on the 405 North, which, for anybody who doesn't know, is miles and miles away from the 101 freeway. A jolt of energy went through my body as though I had just woken up, and I was absolutely freaked out. I was nearing LAX, headed north. So I got off at the next exit and made a left and got onto the southbound 405. This was not the same direction or even the same freeway that I was on for at least 20 minutes. I have absolutely no clue how I got on this road. I started crying and flipping out but told myself to just relax and head home. I had to keep checking that I was going the right way. I was, finally. It was so freaky because I know these roads like I know every centimeter of my face. What do you think this could have been? How did I lose that time? Why do I remember those 20 minutes? Watching the time of my drive decrease as I was approaching my destination. Then with the snap of a finger, I was an hour away on a different freeway and in the wrong direction? Case answer file 1763. Time warp drive, a freeway jive. Okay, so another space-time portal while driving. They are so frequent in the road areas, and you know, the government does manage roads. It makes sense that if they're placed by human beings, it would be the government in charge of that. Now why? You know, testing technology, maybe trying to analyze this natural phenomena that they discovered and trying to replicate it, testing it. So far seems okay. Again, maybe some missing 411 cases are actually related to the government testing this technology. People literally are just driving, and then they are materialized inside the earth or out in space or in some place where, you know, they can't survive, and then they just go missing. Because there's no evidence of these portals. Only if they're unstable is there any visual or auditory indication. Otherwise, they are completely seamless. They blend in. Interesting, actually, when you think about it. If a space-time portal is in front of you, presumably, I mean, no one's reported anything otherwise. You just see what's normally in front of you. It's like trying to design an invisible car. You have to project the image from behind the object to the front. So somehow these portals are projecting the image of what's behind them to the front. So no one is like looking forward and everything is distorted and they obviously would swerve out of the way most of the time. If these are designed, they're very well designed, enough to even create invisible cars and planes. I don't know how they could possibly do that, but it does appear that that is the case. This brings new light and new impact to the Department of Transportation, the Department of Teleportation. Oh boy. Not time for the joke of the day. If the USA is so great, then why did someone make a USB? The next version, USA 2.0. Good at data transfer. That's something. Like the video, subscribe, hit the bell. Kinetic Symphony signing off.